Have you ever thought about how wild dating is these days? I totally lucked out. I met my husband freshman year of college, but if you're in the dating game now, let me introduce you to The League. The League is a premium dating platform that puts quality before quantity. If you're busy, ambitious, and tired of swiping through an endless stream of filtered faces, then it is perfect for you. A few months ago, I interviewed Amanda Bradford, the founder and the CEO of The League, and I had such a fun time talking to her about the app and how unique it is. First, not just anyone can join. You've got to apply and get accepted. So you'll be part of a highly engaged and safe community of like-minded, goal-oriented people like you. And instead of swiping endlessly, The League sends you personalized daily recommendations of the most compatible matches. It's like having a personal dating assistant. The League isn't for casual flings or social climbers. It's for genuine folks with big dreams, career goals, and a real drive to find a meaningful long-term relationship. If you're ready to ditch dating frustration and aim higher, download The League and apply today. Message #GoalDigger to your in-app concierge to jump to the front of the line. There's so much history there. There's so much levity of like, oh, I forgot to add the baking soda and they went flat. And there's so many stories that you can tell that I think would make you feel more confident in hitting send, but also make the receiver more excited to open. I'm Jenna Kutcher, your host of the Goal Digger podcast. I escaped the corporate world at the age of 23 with nothing more than a $300 camera from Craigslist and a dream. Now I'm running a 7-figure online business that feels even better than it looks, all from my house in small town Minnesota with my family. Here, we value time as our currency. We mix the woo and the work, and we are in the pursuit of building businesses that give us the freedom to live lives that we love. I've always loved turning big goals into reality, and I'm here to help you do the same. This isn't just a peek behind the curtain. Come along with me and my guests as we tear the whole curtain down. Every week, we tackle practical, no-fluff marketing strategies and host honest discussions on what works and what doesn't. Join me and my expert guests for actionable insights to help you grow your dream business with confidence. Pull up a seat and get ready to be challenged, inspired, and empowered. This is the Goal Digger podcast. Calling all brick and mortar business owners, if you want to get more eyes on your business and more people into your location, then this coaching episode has your name written all over it. And let me just preface it and say, I was really nervous for this one. I felt like I was out of my league. And yet when we wrap this episode up, I was so on fire for what Heather is about to do. So who is Heather? Well, as a young girl, Heather Davis had always loved baking sweet treats. And although she initially took a more traditional career path to become a teacher, she continued to develop her craft as a baker. Though Heather would often bring her fresh baked goods to her school just for the love of baking, her fellow teachers started placing orders and encouraged her to sell them. So in 2011, she made the life-changing decision to launch a bakery, Chic Sweets Fine Desserts. Now, since 2014, so a decade ago, Chic Sweets Bakery has partnered with the finest coffee shops and cafes, including Nordstrom Department Stores, Saks Fifth Avenue, Rice University and Aramark Corporation. And a little over a year ago, Heather opened her first brick-and-mortar location in a suburb north of Houston, Texas. And that's exactly what we're talking about today. Now, although I have never owned a brick-and-mortar myself, I actually had a lot of questions, I had a lot of thoughts, and I had a lot of ideas. And I gotta say, I had some tricks up my sleeve for Heather in order to think outside of the box on how to get more organic and paid customers into her bakery. And dang, I'm excited about the advice spilled in today's episode. I know you will benefit from it too. Speaking of you, if you are someone who is listening into these coaching episodes and you're like, I want to be coached on the show, make sure you are a part of our Facebook community. It is the Goal Digger Insiders Facebook group. We've linked it in the episode description in the show notes for you. And inside of it, once a month, I will ask volunteers to sign up for a coaching session, to ask questions, get mentored, and help other listeners along the way. And of course, to be on their favorite podcast at the same time. So make sure you are a part of our Facebook community, and perhaps you and I will hit record together soon. Now, without further ado, let's dive on into my coaching session with Heather. It's no secret that starting a business is hard. Even if you have an amazing idea, bringing it to life can be super overwhelming. HubSpot's new entrepreneurship kit is designed to help you go from idea generator to full-fledged business owner. And let me tell you, I wish I had this when I was first starting my business. This all-inclusive kit takes the guesswork out of entrepreneurship with step-by-step guides, practical resources, and easy-to-use templates. It literally walks you through every stage of starting a business and even has freelance pricing worksheets and loads more to help you get up and running immediately. Now, the best part is that it's free at HubSpot.com/ENT. With expert guidance from HubSpot, starting a business doesn't have to be hard, so don't wait to start yours. Head to HubSpot.com/ENT to download the free entrepreneurship kit, all from a company who knows a thing or two about growing bigger and better. That's HubSpot.com/ENT. Growing a business can feel really hard, and one of the toughest parts can be figuring out which platforms you should be on. Did you know that a podcast could be your next best platform? That's right. Whether you launch your own podcast or advertise your business on other shows, there are a lot of ways podcasting can contribute to growing your business. But where do you even start? And what's the best strategy? There's a recent episode of a great podcast called This is Small Business with Andrea Marquez that's all about this. You'll learn how to think strategically about podcasting as a marketing tool, how to grow an audience, and so much more. And Andrea is joined by none other than my friend Hala Taha, the host of the Young and Profiting podcast and the founder and CEO of the Yap Media Podcast Network. So you know this episode has some great advice. It's called How Podcasting Can Grow Your Business and Increase Revenue, and you can listen to it right now. This is Small Business answers so many of these kinds of questions, like why you need an email list, how to accelerate your business growth, how good design can help increase sales, and so much more. If you love Gold Digger, check out This is Small Business, an original podcast from Amazon on your favorite podcast app. And big thanks to This is Small Business for sponsoring this show. I am so excited to spend time with an amazing listener of the show, Heather. Heather, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Jenna.
I feel like you have a story to share.
I do. I discovered you or your podcast, the Gold Digger podcast, 4 years ago during the lockdown from COVID-19. And you were my saving grace. All I had during that time, we were quarantined and locked down. So the only options were either to go to the grocery store or walk the park. There weren't very many options. And it was during my walks in the park that I discovered your podcast. And all of my customers were canceling orders. My brother was like, what are you going to do? And I just say, you know what? God's going to make a way. Mm-hmm. And it was because of your podcast that I was able to continue communicating with my customers. Like I told you, I had customers canceling orders, and these were really good customers. I catered for ExxonMobil. I supplied Nordstrom Department Stores, both locations here in the Houston area, for 8 years. I supplied their coffee bars, and all of them canceled orders. And I just thought, what am I going to do? And I discovered the Gold Digger podcast during my walks in the park. And you taught your audience how to stay connected with their customers. And it was during that time that I took my email list seriously. I had about 300 subscribers. Yes, I had about 300 subscribers at that time. And I just crafted my messaging and just said, hey, we're still here. Yeah. And I credit you for helping me keep my head in the game during that time.
I am so grateful. This is such a full circle moment. And I'm just so grateful you found me. And I'm also so grateful that our paths are crossing. And I was telling Heather before this, and I'll share my vision because I was literally thinking of you in the middle of the night. My 5-year-old came into my room last night, and then I was awake and I was just thinking about our conversation today. And one thing that I think is so beautiful about these coaching conversations is that it requires you to put things through the Heather filter, right? I can give all the advice in the world. And I think, so many of us are so hungry for advice, but I think like the true action comes when it really resonates and it feels aligned and it's also supporting your vision. And so today I consider this, it's going to be a very collaborative coaching experience because I slightly feel intimidated because we're going to be speaking about brick and mortar, and I run a digital company. And so I'm going to rely on you to kind of school me in some of these things of like, would this work or would this not work? So I consider this to be a collaborative coaching experience, which I'm really excited for. So thank you for being willing to come on the show in this way.
Thank you for having me. Yeah. It's my pleasure and my honor.
Okay. So give us a synopsis. So we kind of caught a bit about your company. So give us kind of the landscape of where your company is today. So we kind of have the vision of where you were at in 2020. Tell us where you're at today in 2024.
Yeah. So I discovered a bakery in my neighborhood during 2022. Okay. And at that time, I was baking for coffee shops. That was my, main line of customers were a wholesale. And so I baked for different coffee shops throughout the greater Houston area. And lo and behold, one of my favorite bakeries closed. And I just thought, it would be nice to have a home because I used hourly commercial kitchens during that time. And so I toured the kitchen, fell in love with it, actually toured the bakery, fell in love with it. 10 minutes away from where I lived. Yeah. And in theory, it sounded like, oh yeah, this is a no-brainer, right? I can continue to bake for my coffee shops and open up a storefront. It is the biggest challenge that I've ever conquered. I still, thankfully I have a home for my business and I can continue to bake for the clientele that I've built up over the years, but just the storefront itself and the customer service. And, I feel like I've opened myself. I feel very exposed right now. Yeah. However, I have no regrets.
Okay.
It's a challenge, but I have no regrets.
Okay.
But the challenge is getting people through the door.
Yes.
And what marketing can I use or what avenue can I use to bring them in and be consistent?
Okay. So here's my first question. Okay. And this is slightly nosy, but I promise it ties in. Yeah. Do you know why the past bakery failed?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I do. The couple that closed their bakery, yep. They have been so generous with knowledge and they've actually coached me and they continue to kind of guide me, through the whole permitting process and opening up and what I should carry. But what happened with their business is they had a franchise.
Okay.
And the relationship the relationship didn't work. And so they broke ties with their franchisor. And now, unfortunately, they're in litigation with their franchisor.
Okay. So it wasn't necessarily like a foot traffic issue. It wasn't that, right?
Not necessarily, because they were driving traffic to the brick and mortar.
Okay. Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay.
They didn't necessarily rely on foot traffic. Sure. However,
Okay. So here was my middle of the night thoughts. And again, put this through your lens and I'm just going to share it and then we can dissect it. So I was thinking about you in the middle of the night and I was thinking about how you had this business that was incredibly successful, right? You didn't have the storefront, but you were baking and you were doing wholesale. And my curiosity was in the expansion, in that it looks really successful, right? To have your own space. It's a different type of ownership, but it probably isn't feeling super successful in some of the challenges that you're facing and all that. Like, for example, what I was thinking about in the middle of the night is that there's a really successful restaurant here in our city, and we're like a city of 10,000. And they opened up a secondary location downtown Duluth, thinking this is going to be amazing. And honestly, I'm pretty sure their successful chain in the small town is funding this big city one. And it's not necessarily maybe working out how they thought. And I think my question that I was asking myself in the middle of the night on your behalf was just, is bigger better? in the feeling that you want to have for your life. And this doesn't mean that anything is wrong. Again, I don't have a brick and mortar, but I have never wanted a brick and mortar because of some of the challenges that you face of, starting each month in the red and knowing like, I need to like hit these numbers even to just break even, and just kind of where you start each month in that space. And so what comes to mind? Like, what are you noticing as I'm sharing this?
Oh, this resonates with me. I can totally relate.
Yeah.
I'm known for my lemon bars and my coconut cake. And I think to myself, like you in the middle of the night, gosh, you got to sell a lot of lemon bars.
Yes.
Just to cover the rent and the overhead. And it's very sobering.
Yeah.
I'm a very hard worker, and I never turn down a challenge unless it's something, ridiculous. But this is the greatest challenge of my life, and I'm here to like conquer it.
Yeah. Is your LinkedIn profile gathering dust? If so, you are wasting a huge opportunity. LinkedIn is where you need to be if you're selling to other businesses and you're serious about driving real results. Imagine you're hosting the ultimate business mixer and LinkedIn is your VIP guest list. I'm talking about over 1 billion members, including 180 million senior level executives and 10 million C-level big shots. These are the people who can make things happen. On other platforms, it can feel like you're shouting into the void, but with LinkedIn ads, you're having meaningful conversations and building relationships with decision makers who are actually interested in what you have to offer. This is a place where people actually expect and appreciate professional outreach. LinkedIn generates 2 to 5 times higher return on ad spend compared to other social platforms. And this is why 79% of B2B content marketers say LinkedIn is their top choice for paid media. Make B2B marketing everything it can be and get a $100 credit on your next campaign. Head to linkedin.com/goal to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/goal. Terms and conditions apply. Isn't it the best when you upgrade to something new, expecting it to be just okay, but then it totally blows your expectations out of the water? That's how you can feel when you switch to Mint Mobile. For just $15 a month on a 3-month plan, you can get a premium wireless plan that is much better than what you're using. For me, it is all about smart spending, finding ways to enjoy premium quality without paying a premium price. That's why Mint Mobile is amazing. It's a smart way to save on something essential, your phone bill, so that you can spend more on what really counts, like new tools for your business or that online course you've been eyeing. Mint Mobile takes the stress out of switching carriers. From the moment you sign up to the first call you make, everything just works. You don't need to start fresh. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your phone number. And the price is exactly what you expect. No hidden surprises. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/goaldigger. That's mintmobile.com/goaldigger. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/goaldigger. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on the first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. Do you feel so strongly? So looking at your business prior, I would imagine that your profits were higher because you didn't necessarily have as much overhead. And so which version of the business felt better for you or felt more in alignment with like your values of who Heather is? Or can you say that either way?
Oh, wow. I would say the brick and mortar.
Good.
To be
Good. This is clarity. Tell me why.
Because I've always envisioned it, since I was little, since I was 8 years old, I thought about, I dreamt of owning a bakery. I think the imposter syndrome set in as I became an adult, and it was very sobering, to actually open up a brick and mortar.
Yeah.
But this was pretty much a turnkey process. It was just ready to go. It's a gorgeous space. And it's everything that I had envisioned.
Yeah.
I know you've had guests on your show talking about manifesting, and I feel as though this is a manifestation of dreams. Like I'm coming full circle.
Good.
So this brick and mortar feels more in alignment.
Good. Okay. That answers a huge question. Something that just came to me. So the question that we're kind of tackling with Heather is just like getting more traffic, getting more people in. Like, what does that look like? Yeah. And one of the things that I was pondering is, and this could be totally out of left field, so you can like correct me and put me in my place. But as you were working in, kitchens before and having to kind of rent that space, what would it look like to use the bakery in a way that you were using those rented kitchens as the main source of income? And the reason why I'm asking this is, to me, it would make more sense if you could get one more corporate client that would likely be more profitable than trying to get 50 daily customers. Does that make sense to me? And so when I was thinking about marketing, I was just kind of thinking about like Heather's time and energy and money. And that doesn't mean that you aren't serving the consumers, because I think that you have a soul that wants to connect with other people in that exchange. But from a business standpoint, if you could almost leverage the bakery space as a commercial kitchen for some of those bigger clients, all you would need is one more corporate client to help kind of float some of those costs, so that then you have more time and energy to spend with like the customers in those exchanges. Have you considered that?
Yes. So you bring up a very good point.
Okay.
The summer of 2022, I had a proof of concept. It's basically you showcase your product to a group of people at Aramark.
Okay.
I'm sure you've heard of Aramark Corporation.
Yep. Red logo, right?
Yes. Yes. And Aramark services MD Anderson Hospital here in the Houston area. MD Anderson treats cancer. Yep. They're in the business of treating and curing cancer. They're not in the business of, preparing food and, taking care of their patients. And so they contract all of that to Aramark. And this is kind of a lengthy story to get back to your question. Yeah. But I was given an opportunity with MD Anderson and Aramark in 2020 when the lockdown, when COVID struck. Yeah. And I held on to that opportunity. And basically, they had to wait until COVID was completely clear before they opened up their doors because of the unique population. Yep. Their clients have cancer. And so they just stopped wearing masks at MD Anderson. And I just supplied them at an event with pastries for the first time. And it's taken 6 years. So they gave me the green light in 2022, and it still took another 2 years for them to place their first order. Okay. And to be honest, they're the reason why I got the bakery, because Aramark takes care of everyone. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's where I was like thinking, because I was almost thinking of like, if we, as in I'm your business partner now, hello.
I would take
if we used the bakery almost as though it is a commercial kitchen with a retail experience, therefore people don't have to go to Nordstrom in order to experience and enjoy what you create. But if we almost treated it and flipped it on its head of like, I'm a commercial kitchen serving these large clients. And if an average consumer wants to come in and enjoy it, they can. But in my mind, it's kind of brought me back to even my wedding photography days of like, I only need like 20 couples to say yes. I don't need to appeal to the masses. It's so hard to appeal to the masses these days. And I feel like the friction that you're experiencing as a business owner is in trying to appeal to the masses to get the masses to come in. And to me, I'm like, from a money and energy standpoint, getting that one more corporate client and treating it as a commercial kitchen with the opportunity to serve consumers, it shifts kind of the energy, it shifts kind of the business model a touch, but it also gives you that security that I believe you might be craving of just knowing like we're not in the red every month. Like we're starting out with the contracts that like give us the green light so that we can serve our community on a higher level, but also so that we're not creating out of that feeling of like fear or urgency.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. I have it's just been the wait, Jenna.
Yeah. It's
The
real.
wait for Aramark it takes a while for the corporate contracts to come around.
Yeah.
I kind of got spoiled with Nordstrom because that happened overnight.
Yeah.
But I've just been waiting for Aramark, and they're worth the wait because they take care of, they take care of everyone.
Yeah.
They supply Nordstrom. They supply, the University of Houston.
Yeah.
All over America. So yeah, you're right.
Okay. So let's focus on that as like the main vision, but let's also talk about the other side. Because I do think that for other brick and mortar people, they're like, wait a minute, Jenna, I can't get an Aramark. What do we do? Okay. So let's talk about a few things. So one of the things I was thinking about is just like our local coffee shops and like the ones that I frequent. And one thing that I think is really compelling that I think a lot of people miss the opportunities for, no matter what type of brick and mortar company you are, is giving people an excuse to come in. And so it's like, what like specials do you have that then it becomes a part of somebody's natural rhythm? So maybe like I'm thinking of even when we used to spend time on Maui, there's this one gluten-free restaurant, and it was like every Tuesdays they had cinnamon rolls, and you had to like call to reserve your cinnamon roll and go pick it up. And like we didn't miss a Tuesday. Like it became a part of our rhythm. And so one of the things that you might be lacking in the more consumer side of the bakery is having urgency and also like having specialty. And so it's like if everything is available all the time, it hinders people from actually making decisions. And it's like a lot of times we need that like scarcity, urgency. We need that time-bound decision to help us take action. And so one of the things I was considering from the bakery standpoint is like either having like theme days where again, then it becomes a part of people's natural rhythm, or having scarcity on some of the items where people like go nuts for it, but like they've got to get their foot in the door and show up in order to get it. It might be something interesting for you to experiment with. And what I would challenge anyone listening is like, just try something for 30 days. Like just try and like see what insight you get, see what people are really driven towards, see what is helping people get in the door. So how does that sound? Does that sound in alignment at all?
Oh, I love that. I love that. We have specials.
Yeah.
We could do a better job of advertising them.
Okay. Yeah. Cause I love like where it feels special. Like it's called a special, right? But like a lot of times if it's available all the time, we're like, it's just a menu. And so I was like thinking about like what makes me like jump out of my seat, or even there's a local coffee shop in Duluth, 190. And like in the summer, they make these like watermelon lime slushes, and they're just like so good. And so I got so excited the other day because they had a board out of like, they're coming back. And I'm like, yes, they're coming back. I'm coming back. And so it's like some of those simple things, just like Starbucks, love them or hate them. They have the pumpkin spice latte every year. And it's like having some of those more like cyclical trends of like, this is happening and it's going to end, makes people want to increase their frequency. I think that they're really smart in how they do that. And so it's like looking at just some different ways to market. I love my home in Duluth, and nothing beats being near family. But when it starts getting cold, we're often eager for some priceless time in the sun. And one of our favorite places to go is Scottsdale, Arizona. There's so much to look forward to in Scottsdale, like healthy food, beautiful parks, and ample places for the kids to have new adventures. Plus, one of my favorite Airbnbs I've ever stayed in. It has this amazing location that's close to everything. The decor is fabulous, has a putting green, and even a private pool that we can have heated for an evening swim. It has everything you could need for a comfortable getaway. My favorite Airbnbs feel like home. Just like our favorite escapes, your space can provide comfort and joy to guests looking for a home away from home. Whether it's your entire house or just a spare bedroom, hosting on Airbnb can help you make the most of your space and earn some extra money. You don't need much, just your personal touch. Your home might be worth more than you think. Find out how much at airbnb.com/host. Hiring new team members used to have me nervous, but as I've grown my team, I developed my own unique hiring strategy that has allowed me to build a collaborative, powerful work culture. And a massive part of that strategy has been LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs is perfect for finding the right professionals for your team faster and for free. It's so fast that 86% of small businesses find a qualified candidate within 24 hours. And it isn't just a job board, it's where you'll find amazing candidates you won't see anywhere else. 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not on LinkedIn, you are missing out big time. I recently hired a strategic partnership manager and LinkedIn made it seamless. Posted the job and in a matter of hours, I had solid options to choose from. Brooke stood out immediately. Her experience was a perfect match and she's been hired and an amazing addition to our team. In fact, I have hired my last 6 team members using LinkedIn. It is just that easy. Join the 2.5 million small businesses that use LinkedIn for hiring. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/Jenna. That's linkedin.com/Jenna to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. One of the things that I think is so interesting that you took action on, and I just want to commend you for, is your email list. So tell me how you're currently using it and what that looks like. Let's dive in a little bit.
Oh, wow. This is one of my favorite subjects. And I think it's one of my favorite subjects because of you.
God bless it.
Well, okay. So I'm so glad you brought this up.
Yeah.
Before the brick and mortar, my messaging was, I felt, like it was in alignment with who I was. I would, tell my audience about stories. I would craft stories, and the stories are what connects you with your audience, right? And so many of my customers would take me up on my offers. And so it was just very natural before the brick and mortar to communicate with my subscribers. But now, since I have the brick and mortar, it feels very salesy. Like I'm always, this is what we're doing at the bakery, or we have this discount, or we have this offer. And I just don't know what type of message to communicate to my subscribers now. It's almost like there's been a shift and it doesn't feel very natural anymore. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Oh, 100%. And let me just say, you are not alone in that. I think too, when you look at the nature of your business, before it was literally just serving and connecting, right? And now it's shifted into selling territory, which one feels unnatural to us, but two, something weird happens. And I haven't figured it out. I'm sure there's a psychologist listening to this that they're like, I know what it is. Something weird happens when we go to sell. It's like our tone changes, the language changes, we change, our demeanor changes. Like, there's just something there. There's a block for so many of us. I would argue for all of us. And so one of the things that I often think about, and I am so fortunate, I have so many people in my life who write amazing cookbooks. And I love reading about the recipes. I love knowing, where did they come from? Or what was this baker or cook's first experience with this recipe that they wanted to recreate it? Or what happened in the test kitchen in creating this? And so I'm really curious if you could almost have stories around all of your baked goods. Because let me guess, Heather, you have stories, right? You have stories about that scone. You have stories about that muffin. Like, they exist. And one of my favorite TV shows is Top Chef. And I feel like Top Chef just does such a good job. I'm like, I never even get to taste this food. And yet I am like eagerly tuning in every single week. But it is because of the story and the cultural perspective. And, I cooked this Spam recipe with my grandma and this was the memory. And like, that is what makes the food even taste better and richer. And so I'd be curious if it would feel different in your email marketing to tell the stories behind the food and just to highlight that. And I think it would shift the energy of selling, but I also think it would shift the experience for the consumer.
Oh my gosh, that is genius.
I love it. And I was just with my friend, Maya Feller. She is amazing. And she was like telling me about her life. And I was like, okay. And she's like, it was such a bummer because when I wrote my cookbook, they only gave me like 6 pages. And I was like, okay, you need a whole memoir. But it was like the stories of her life and her experiences made me want to taste the food, right? And I think one of the things that she did when I was with her, we were just on a retreat together, is she made everyone go around and just tell a food memory, like a story about food. And it made me realize how like deeply ingrained, but also like how traumatizing food can be for people as well, or like how complicated it can be. And so I feel like with food stories, especially with a bakery, there's so much history there. There's so much levity of like, oh, I forgot to add the baking soda and they went flat. And, like there's so many stories that you can tell that I think would make you feel more confident in hitting send, but also make the receiver more excited to open.
Oh, gosh. That is a genius idea. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad because I'm going to tell y'all, like, before I got on with Heather, I was like messaging Christy because I was like, I chose Heather. I saw her in our Facebook community and I was like, we're going to do this. But then I was like panicking because I was like, this is so out of my zone. This is why I was thinking about it at 2 a.m. I was like, I hope I have something to offer Heather. What is another question that you have or that we can go in? What direction do you want to go in?
Well, I've actually started back blogging.
Love it.
And yes, it's something that I'm on again, off again, and I wish I would be more consistent.
Yeah.
And so last week I wrote a blog, and before we even opened the doors, we had 2 customers. And then after the doors opened, there were 2 more customers. And I'll be perfectly honest with you, we don't typically see a customer until around noon, and we open at 10 a.m. And so that was exciting to learn that it actually worked. I mean, what else could it have been?
Yeah.
We surveyed the customer. We asked, well, how did you learn about us? And many of them said, I Googled you and you came up. I did a search. And so I just would love to be more consistent and just, be consistent with my blogging and find more ways. Like, my mind is all over the place. I'm just trying everything, to be honest with you.
You're throwing spaghetti at the wall is where we're at. I have a couple random thoughts that I was thinking because blogs are super effective and amazing, but the goal of your blog should be to capture the email address. Okay. So you want to make sure, like, blogging is incredible for long form content. It's great for search engine optimization. So those are 2 really big buckets that you're filling every time you blog. But also when somebody lands on your blog, if you have a pop-up with some sort of value, specifically if the goal is to get foot traffic, is like, type in your name and email and we'll send you a secret password to get $3 off your next purchase in store or something like that. Another thing I was thinking about is how people really, really lean on reviews these days, right? They don't necessarily want to hear it from the creator's mouth. They want to know what was people's real experiences, whether you're booking an Airbnb, whether you're going out for sushi, like whatever that is. And so what if you had something at the point of sale where somebody could screenshot a QR code and leave you a review in the place that it serves you the most? And in exchange for that review, they could get like a free cup of coffee or something like that, where you're like asking for an exchange. But like I use like Yelp reviews, right? All the time for food choices. And so I think there's some interesting ways where you can offer something of value in exchange for something of value from your customers that will then help the word spread like wildfire. And obviously we do it in like an ethical way that makes sense. But I've even been in places where like if you opt in for their text messages, which I strongly recommend email lists over texting. But if you opt in for their text messages on the spot, you get $1 off your purchase or something like that. And so it would be really interesting to have something where when you are at that point of sale, you have an ethical ask, but also a great offer for that person, because it's like you getting to hold a microphone up to them of like, share your experience or like, tell me how this muffin tastes. And they get to then offer something of value to you.
That's a great idea. Thank you.
Do you feel comfortable doing that? Because I feel like you would.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I think we could, honestly, I feel like we could make better use of the space here in the bakery in the lobby. So yeah, for sure, I could see myself doing that.
Have you considered like hosting any sort of meetups or anything, especially for like entrepreneurs?
I reached out to the Chamber of Commerce, but our bakery the capacity is 13. It's a small lobby.
Like, what if you hosted like a book club or like something like that where because it's like a lot of times people just need to be in a space and like feel the energy of it to like buy into it, right? It's like when you can get somebody initially into the door, into the experience, like that's the hardest part. Once they're in, I trust that you and your gifts take care of them fully. And so it'd be really interesting to utilize the space. Like even if you said from 10 to noon, if you don't typically see a customer from noon, is there a mom group that wants to meet up? Is there a book club? Because I feel at the heart of it, and maybe the heart of the vision of the bakery was to create more community, right? Baking is one piece of it, and you can serve clients, and that's beautiful, and you can have the corporate clients. But I do feel within you, and again, I could be wrong, it's just like that desire to create a space and community and like let people gather. And so it would be really interesting to like advertise or connect in Facebook communities of local, like there's like, I'm in like a Duluth moms local group or like even a Minnesota gardening group, or like there's groups for everything of just like, hey, I just want to offer up my space. Like if you need a space to meet, our space is available.
I love that idea too. That's the one thing that I've discovered in this whole process is how much a part of the community that we've become. And so I love the idea of opening up the doors to a mom group or a book group.
Yeah. And I think too, if you reach out to your email list now, like of who's on it and just said like, hey, just so you know, like we're generally pretty quiet from 10 to noon. Like if you have a group that you want to meet up with, we would love to facilitate that space for you. And I think just again, like putting things out into the universe, kind of like your initial manifestation or the dream of the bakery. I feel like if you put it out there, people will come. And I feel like once people get in there, you're going to take care of them in such a way that like, of course, they're going to keep coming back and they're going to bring friends. And so it's like, how do you get that initial experience for people? And then again, like it's going to set off a wildfire in a good way. And I said that's what will happen.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I agree with that. I'm going to give that one a try too.
I love that. Okay, we have time for one more question. Are there any burning questions remaining before we close up shop on this one?
I think you've covered everything, Jenna.
Well, let me do a synopsis of what I think would be the best. And again, everything I say goes through your lens. So number one, getting that extra corporate client to just help cover the cost so that every month you have this security and the safety that you're craving so that you can stay in that like creative visionary position that I think you love to be in. So that is already in the works. So check that one off the list. Number two, telling more stories in your marketing, in your email list, in your social posts, and really thinking about like how somebody can almost get their like taste buds watering before they ever step foot into the bakery. I would say number three is getting really creative and have fun with specials and maybe experiment with more scarcity so that people have a real reason to like get in and get something before it's gone and see which offers people are like going crazy about. And then number four, I would say is opening up your space more for community and letting people know like we're here and we want to house like your conversations and we want to like help facilitate. So if you need a place, let us be your landing pad. And I just feel like that is going to expand things. And then I would just say number five is getting creative for one call to action at your point of contact. So when people are purchasing, that will either allow you to ask them to join your email list, to leave a review, to tell a friend about it, some sort of way to capture that person's attention, because we all know that it costs like 5 times more to acquire a new customer than it is to keep one. And so getting generous with what you're offering, but also getting bold enough to ask for what you need. And I would say those would be the 5 things that I would do.
Oh my gosh. I love it.
We did it.
So thankful to be able to pick your brain. Oh my gosh. This is a dream come true. Thank you so much.
Yes. Heather, where can everybody find out more about you if you are in the Houston area? Where can we go to visit you? How do we get our hands on your amazing goods? Give us all of the places.
Oh my goodness. So our physical location is 2139 Cypress Creek Parkway, Houston, Texas, 77090. And it's about 5 minutes away from the intersection of I-45 North and what used to be called 1960, but it's been renamed Cypress Creek Parkway. So that's the physical location. But we're also on the web, mychicsweets.com. And then you can find us on Instagram, Chic Sweets Bakery Houston. And of course, we're on Facebook and TikTok.
Atta girl. girl. Look at you. No wonder why you're tired. Oh my goodness. Heather, thank you for being a part of this community, and thank you for being bold enough and brave enough to come on the show like this. I'm so grateful we had this time to connect.
Thank you. I appreciate you more than you know, Jenna. I really do. I tell everyone about you. I tell friends who own businesses, friends who don't own businesses, male and female, I tell everyone about you. So this is a dream come true. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I promise you I'm still going to be thinking about you at 2 a.m. So that's not ending. When I tell Heather that I lay awake in the middle of the night thinking of her, I mean it. And I also want you to know, my listener, that I do the same for you. I feel like a lot of times I just ponder, like, what are you going through? What are you experiencing? What questions do you have? What thoughts are you challenging? What are you overcoming? I feel like entrepreneurship is such a spiritual endeavor. I feel like there are so many ways that we are healing ourselves and learning how to impact the world. We're stumbling along the way, we're messing up, and yet we're showing up. And today's episode, I am just so excited for Heather, and I could feel her excitement. And I also just want to say that real results come from not just inspiration, but implementation. And so if you could take even one thing from today's episode and run it through your own filter and apply it in a way that only you can apply it, I just feel really confident that you can get amazing results. And so I just want to really challenge you today to not just let this episode leave you feeling inspired, but leave you implementing and taking action. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Goal Digger Podcast. I'm so grateful you spend your time with me, and I can't wait to connect soon. Until next time, keep on digging your biggest goals. Thanks for pulling up a seat for another episode of the Goal Digger Podcast. I hope today's episode fueled you with inspiration, gave you information that you can turn into action, and realigned you with your true north in life and business. If you've enjoyed today's episode, head on over to goaldiggerpodcast.com for today's show notes, discount codes for our sponsors, freebies to fuel your results, and so much more. And if you haven't yet, make sure you're subscribed so that you never miss a future show. We'll see you next time, Goal Diggers.